Hey, Garage Gym athletes, before we get started, I wanted to let you know we are upping our Instagram game so we can better educate the industry. The goal is to drown out the influencers in bro science that is social media. If you want to help, screenshot this podcast episode and tag us at Garage Gym Athlete and a friend in your Instagram stories. We'd love to connect, and we will even be sending some free merch to a select few who actually take us up on this 15-second task. So go get it done, and I look forward to connecting with you. All right, now to the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Trampus and Ashley, which means we're going like that today. I don't even know what to call it.
It's not jazz.
Well, welcome to the podcast, you two. How are things?
Fabulous.
Going great. Joe has to be so jealous or just upset that he gets zero music when he comes on.
When he's the
No, he gets
controller,
music.
when he's here, I have to take over the controls, and I barely know what I'm doing. So he could totally have his own music if he wanted to. All right, well, we're going to get straight into the science today. Kind of like a concurrent training-ish study. We always like these, and I'll explain what I mean by ish in a second. So the title of the study is Short-Term Aerobic Conditioning Prior to Resistance Training Augments Muscle Hypertrophy and Satellite Cell Content in Healthy Young Men and Women. So this was a smaller study. 14 young recreationally active subjects completed it. And they were compared the effects of aerobic training and resistance training versus resistance training alone. And one thing to note about this, it wasn't a true concurrent training study. So concurrent training would be looking at resistance training and aerobic training in conjunction with one another. So maybe one day resistance, next day aerobic based, or within the same day, or even within the same session. That's what aerobic training truly is. This is more of them doing like blocks of training, differentiating the two. So like an aerobic block prior to resistance block, and going through it that way. And the exact way they went through it was, we can mention it. I don't think it's worth focusing on too much, but they did do an odd thing where they had one leg acting as a control. Let's see here. I wrote it down. So for each subject, one leg was randomized into the aerobic plus resistance training intervention, with the other leg completing just resistance training portion of the intervention. Thus, each subject could serve as their own control. So one condition involved 6 weeks of aerobic training followed by 10 weeks of resistance training. And one condition only involved 10 weeks of resistance training. So it is weird that they're doing one, like we see this all the time, and we've talked about it. We talk about it every single time, but this is just how the science works. This is just how they're doing it. It's odd. It's weird. You would never do this in reality, but the things that they're measuring are, things that have to do with hypertrophy and capillary density and things like that. So it kind of makes sense, even though it is an odd training program. And so in a sense, it's good. In a sense, it's really strange. So yeah, they were acting. The best part of it is you are acting as your own control. So we don't have any well, maybe it would have been different if it was different people or whatever, because it's your left versus your right or whatever. So it's all the same. So just big picture again, it was 6 weeks aerobic followed by 10 weeks resistance. So this would be equivalent to if Garage Gym Athlete was like, all right, we're just going to do interval training, running or rowing or whatever monostructural activity you want to pick. We're going to do that for the next 6 weeks. And then 10 weeks after that, we're going to do all resistance training. So huge flip. And this isn't what people typically like to do, because I would even be scared to do it because I feel like I would lose too much in either area. Like if I took 10 weeks off of aerobic training, I know when I get back to aerobic training, that's going to hurt. And then same thing in resistance training. I feel like I'm going to lose a lot of my strength, but it would be interesting to do something like this for a year. So anyway, that's what they were looking at. I can get into some of the results, but I want to hear from the two of you. What did you think about this study with the concurrent training-ish-ness? Trampus?
I'll go first. I actually thought it was pretty cool. Like you said, the weird study, but I really don't care about what the participants had to go through. I mean,
Yeah.
it needs to be measurable, and it's too variable otherwise. But I thought it was cool because finally, or maybe not finally, but like at least there's some evidence showing for just the average athlete or average Joe kind of fitness enthusiast that not only is aerobic training like incredibly important for health and longevity, but it actually can translate to other gains, so to speak, in your life. And we know that it's muscle mass and aerobic conditioning are two of the most important factors in longevity. And here they're actually working together as opposed to canceling each other out or interfering with each other. And I just thought from at least that instance that it's great. If you're an athlete and you're doing a certain sport, and that's what you get paid to do, then you need to train for whatever that is. But for us, we're working normal jobs. You're in the fitness industry, but your fitness actually doesn't have a lot to do with your paycheck. It it it, it just helps. It helps you stay healthier. Like, and I think it's actually pretty great that it finally there's some science, or at least there's a little bit more evidence to support the fact that you do need aerobic conditioning, and it doesn't affect you long term otherwise. That was really my main takeaway from it.
Yeah. I think that's
I
great.
thought it was great. I thought it was great the way they did it, just because it shed that light. Ashley, what'd you think?
So unlike you two boys, I mean, my first point is yet another study I probably wouldn't have done, but
Yeah.
um,
No, I wouldn't do it. And for 100%, like I wouldn't do it. It's there's I think what they are measuring, it's okay, but still, like you can't put me on 16 weeks of training one leg versus the other
can you
and like
imagine?
and
Yeah,
hoping that it all is like, oh, I'll be fine. This will be cool.
They're
yeah,
probably
and
getting paid. Let's get real. Like
Yeah, $3 a
they're
day.
getting something.
nothing. Um, no, I think it's interesting because again, this is all lower body, right? So, and with their resistance training, it was squats and leg extensions and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see, like, if they would have done this with maybe a swim and then even upper body. You know what I'm saying? Like to
Yeah.
kind of like maybe we would have done lower body for half of it and then upper body for the other half.
Or like
Or if this,
steer to like just hit because that's
yeah.
predominantly arms. Yeah.
So to see like if this was an overall all around takeaway kind of thing. And I think it is also good to hit that they weren't resistance trained prior to.
Yeah.
So to me, like, they said, all groups, all both sides, I guess, saw improved strength as well, which makes sense because they're basically newbies adding
Hmm.
in a resistance training program to their aerobic programming too. So I don't know. I mean, I didn't dislike it. How about that? But I feel like for us, like I agree with Trampus. I think for longevity reasons and uh, just overall for me is like, well, maybe I would buy a bike. That's what it kind of pointed to a little bit. Like I always feel like rowing could probably be great for this too. But I think what was the other study we did on cycling that it also showed like great improvements with, I believe it was muscle growth as well. But
That's one of the main concurrent training studies. I forgot the name of it. I think it's called like concurrent training. It's like one of the first ones from 1980s. Um, and they tested different forms of cardio. So running with resistance training, cardio or
that's right.
biking, and then I don't think it was rowing, but I feel like there was a third one.
No, I think
Uh,
it was too.
but anyway, biking always seems to um, be better for concurrent training than anything else. And part
Yeah.
of my theory on that is just how metabolically demanding running is, and how bad people actually are at running. Um, and I don't mean like in form. I just mean most of us can like push ourselves kind of hard in running, and we can grow accustomed to like running in zone 4. Like a lot of people can just run in zone 4. This is not like a
We get used to
skill.
the
Yeah.
we get used to the pain, not
Yeah.
fitness. Yeah.
When like you really should be running at this much lower pace and not just running in zone 4 every time you go run. And I think that's what a lot of people do, to be honest. And I think that is that's my theory why running has more detriment to your resistance or hypertrophy than anything else. And I think with biking, it's a lot easier to stay in zone 2 or zone 3 than, I mean, it's actually hard. It's kind of hard to get into zone 4 on a bike, especially if you're doing like on a flat course or whatever. Like it's kind of hard unless you just click it up, or if you're going uphill or whatever. You have to be going pretty fast to like maintain zone 4 on a bike, and so it's almost opposite of running.
Yeah. So I guess for me that's kind of where I was like, man, it really makes me, and I've been saying this for a while that I want to bike, but I don't know, to our athletes, I feel like I still say concurrent training trumps all.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think about it, Jerred?
My biggest takeaway from this one was blood flow is what I found to be the most interesting thing. And that was kind of my takeaway of the study, because what they're doing is almost this preparatory aerobic training before resistance training. And the only thing that, I mean, I have it all written out here. Like they found that, I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's A, B, C, D, 4 different statements that all basically say, I'm not going to read it because they really almost all say the same thing, but it's 4 different statements, kind of sub takeaways from their study that state there was more blood flow to these areas. Like the more blood flow given to an area, the more hypertrophy there was. There's either greater capillary density or something along those lines. So like the more blood and oxygen we could bring to a muscle, the better it performed, and it outperformed everything else. And so I think that that's what's most interesting about this to me, because if you look at nitric oxide supplements, which are really really commonplace amongst endurance athletes, there has been some a lot of people using it in resistance training and hypertrophy for increased blood flow. And so because everyone, I think, is starting to learn that the more blood you can get to your muscles, the better they're going to perform. And it just makes so much sense, because blood is what carries oxygen and nutrients to and away from a muscle. And so if you want a muscle to be healthy and you're training it, the best thing you can do is get more blood to it, in and out of it, with nutrients and oxygen going back and forth. And that is basically exercise, but your body is not naturally good at doing this. Like it can do it. Like you will be alive. Like if you're alive, it's doing that right now. But if you want to be good at it, you have to train it. And so I think that's what's most interesting, and was kind of a sub takeaway here. But that's what I think we should probably focus on more, or even in their scientific research, heading more towards this. Like, let's focus on blood flow and how that affects hypertrophy, how that affects resistance training. And I think it's going to help a lot more with hypertrophy than it will resistance training, if I had to guess. But ultimately, that's what I thought was the coolest thing, and something that people could really focus on. As far as doing this kind of programming, I would actually be willing to test it, because it is in line with concurrent training research. So one of the biggest takeaways in concurrent training research is basically you want to separate resistance training from aerobic training as far as you possibly can, and you will see the most results. Like if they're back to back, it's going to be less. If they're separated by, and it's not far, like the research says, like 4 to 6 hours. If they're separated by more than 4 to 6 hours, the interference effect is going to be very small. And so if you're doing primarily strength training on one day and then primarily conditioning the next day, that's the best way to just cycle back and forth with this stuff. But to go one step further and to be like, okay, 6 weeks aerobic, I would probably shrink this to like 1 and 1, like a 1 week aerobic, 1 week strength. So when I say I'm willing to test it, that's what I mean, not test this. I think it's too long to maintain results in both categories, but I'd be all for going, let's go a full week of just aerobic conditioning. We'll do intervals one day. We'll do, long form. We'll do zone 2. We'll do zone 4. And then the next week, turn off conditioning brain and let's just go all strength training. That's something I'd actually really be interested in trying. And hey, maybe I'll try it next year sometime in the program. I don't think I'll force garage gym athletes to go through it because it's experimental, but something I'm at least interested in. So overall, seems like, yep, I agree with you, Ashley. Like more for concurrent training, kind of what you're saying as well, Trampus. But also, I think the blood flow thing is interesting because we talk about blood flow all the time for recovery, which makes a lot of sense. But it might be true too for like a prerequisite to hypertrophy is that your body needs to be good at, or at least getting better at pumping blood in and out of muscles.
Well, they were also getting just a really good warm up before they went into some heavier lifting as well, right? So, I mean, that's another thing that we preach is warm up.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of this, it's all blood flow. That's my takeaway. I wrote it in all caps as my takeaway. Blood flow. That's all I wrote. So the more you can get, the better. That's
Do you
all I
think
got.
too, like, you know how they have those bands that can restrict the blood flow and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think like doing that prior to and then releasing, does that have anything to do with like getting blood flow to the muscles?
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean,
Just talking out loud here.
well, I do. That actually might be one of the, if we were to put people in a lab and
Mhm.
like, say you gave me, we had 2 humans that were cloned and you gave me one of them and another coach had another. And we're like, okay, you have a year to train this person who's going to be the better athlete, or let's say most muscle mass, best aerobic endurance. I would probably use blood flow restriction training on them
Mm.
because I could prevent them from getting injured and give them a lot of volume and blood flow. Because you're restricting it, but then you're releasing it. But they can use a much lighter weights. That's the big pro for blood flow restriction training is once you cut off that blood flow, you can use like the pink weights, like 2.5 pound, like for bicep curls, and get the same result as if you were to be lifting a 65-pound dumbbell or something like that in one arm. So it's definitely worth looking at. I think that's really interesting.
Hmm.
Cool. We will move on to the topic unless either one of you have something else on this one. Really cool study overall. Get your aerobic training in, do your strength training. All very important stuff. Hey, quick break here. As you know, we will not accept sponsors on this podcast. We want to keep it content focused and just deliver the best we can to you. So if you think this podcast is worth listening to, can you do me a favor and share it with one friend? I don't care how you share it. You can text it to a friend, Instagram, DM, email, or even snail mail, but I can't reimburse you for that stamp. Look, the best way for a podcast to continue to grow is word of mouth. So if you can share this episode with at least one person, I would be forever grateful. All right, back to the show. All right, getting into the topic, really we're talking about the reality of achievement. This one is something I like to talk about a lot and focus on a lot with people because in every capacity of me working with other human beings has to do with helping them embrace what the reality of achievement is, where they know that they're actually moving forward, what it actually looks like, and taking a lot of these things off of a pedestal, realizing imperfection is okay. There's a lot that you could unpack here, and I think it's worthy of a conversation between the three of us because I run into it over and over, and it doesn't matter what the person's trying to achieve. I'm just always running into them thinking that someone else out there is like more perfect than them, and that's what they're missing. Like that's the thing that they're missing in achieving their goals. Like it's because they're not that person. Like they think that there's this trait that another human being has that they don't have. Like there's this magic with these other human beings, and that's rarely ever the case from anyone I've ever met. And I've met some incredible high achievers, and they're not very special, like none of them. And so I want to talk about the reality of achievement, but I'll just kind of throw it out there for what your thoughts are in general. Each one of us could take this any direction. But we'll start with you, Ashley. What do you think about the reality of achieving a goal, especially in the health and fitness space.
Yeah, and I would agree with you and kind of expand and say, like, I feel like people take programs and think that one program is going to be bigger than another one, kind of thing. Especially working with some ladies that for women's health track, it's just like, oh, well, if we were doing this, maybe this would, help with this. And I think my very first point is it takes a hell of a lot longer than what you think it's going to take to achieve your goals. In my personal opinion, and it just depends on where you are in your training again, but also I think it should not just be for a certain amount of time in my opinion. I think this should be an overall thing that you are constantly going at. And okay, let's say, sure, you want to get stronger or whatnot. I think the hard work that you are putting in to achieve said goal should then turn around and be like a great habit that you are now picking up. And that to me is more important than the aesthetic or the number or whatever else it is that you are hitting. I feel like people get too caught up in that. And sometimes you are achieving even greater things for your body, even if you are not seeing what you think that you need to hit or whatever your goal is. Yeah, I think discipline and consistency is key. And I think that's something that you can take in not just for health and fitness, but something that you can then take and utilize in life in all aspects of life. So that's where I went with this. Trampus.
Yeah, so goals, I struggle with goals. I've done well with them in past, and then there's other goals where like I'll set one and shiny object syndrome comes up. I'm doing fine. I'm achieving the goal, or I'm definitely on the way, and then I'll see some other thing I want to do, and then the issue becomes, well, do I try to do both? I'll try to do too much. That's a lot of times that's one of the things that I fall into, and it's hard to stay, like Ashley was saying, consistency is the main thing. And if you have too much going on, you're trying to do too much, you can only fit it in, so many different. You only have a certain amount of time in the day, so if you're not being able to stay consistent with both of those things, or all three of them, or however many goals you've set for yourself, that is where I can fall into a trap myself. So the best thing is to have a good plan of one goal or two goals that that you can be consistent with, and then setting your life up so that, if there's still something that comes up, you're able to get past it and keep achieving the goal. But then also, like, don't be just so upset with you if something happens that you're not able to achieve it. I've had a few issues this year where I was trucking right along with the 300 challenge. But then, when I got through the issues and looked, I was like, you're going to have to train every day to make this 300 challenge. And I just went ahead and told myself, you're not going to do 300 this year. So it's like, you've got to be able to live with yourself for failing or something outside of your control getting in the way. But you also need to keep setting that carrot out in front so that you do continue to do something. Because otherwise it's really easy this day and age to just fall into just be completely sedentary and never move and never try to do any goals, physical or business, professional, anything. Like, it's really easy just to Netflix
and die.
And die, we never lived in a time where you can have 40,000 calories in a day, never move, and be completely entertained all day long, like we are now. So that was a hodgepodge of things, but have a good plan, be willing to confront setbacks, And then also realize that sometimes you're just not going to achieve it, but keep pushing towards the goal as hard as you can. That's sort of the process. But
yeah, the process is I think the most important part, and that's a lot of what you both are hitting on, the consistency and discipline. And I think the realization that everyone needs to have, I mean, this is myself included, if you ever get into this, you're following a program or you're doing a challenge like the Daily Over Decades Challenge or something like that, is that achievement, goal achieving is different than goal setting. So goal setting is we sit down and we talk about what we want and we set the goal. It's really the easiest thing to do on the planet. Like setting a goal is damn easy. I'd set 10 goals right now. But that's all great. Then goal achieving is where it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to go do those things. And it is literally no different than lifting weights. If you're just starting, the bar might be enough for you. And that's all you need. And this is what people don't realize, because they might think that you are equally yoked. Like, we are the same age, we are the same size, we are the same everything. We make about the same amount of money. Like, that kind of peer-to-peer comparison is where the trap is, because one person might still just be way better at goal achieving than you because they've been doing it for 15, 20 years. And you just haven't done that. You don't have that muscle. You can't flex that muscle. So you haven't used it enough to actually be anywhere in the realm of what another human being might be. And going back to the Daily Over Decades Challenge, like, you just had to come to terms with the fact that you're not going to do 300. And some people, I know a lot of people listening to this, started the Daily Over Decades Challenge. They got all fired up and they realized 300 is not happening. Hey, maybe 200 is not happening. Who cares? Like, find out where your ability is. Is it 100? The reason we set 300, 200 is because we have a financial commitment at the end to give things away at the end. We're giving away a rower and stuff. So that's why we have, like, we know it's going to be hard, and there's going to be a few people who finish it. But if you can only finish 50 training sessions in a year, great. That's your baseline now. You're nowhere close to 300, but you know your baseline, and it's 50. And you can increase from there. You can go to 100. You can go to 150, 200. And I think if the sooner everyone can come to terms with that, it's like coming to terms with, like, I'm not good at something, so, like, I need to go get better at it. Like, I can't play the piano at all. And I think, well, Scott can play the piano, right?
So can I?
Can you? Yeah. So, like, I can't go watch Ashley and be like, well, she does. Like, I should be able to do it. Like, that doesn't make sense, right? Like, it does not make sense. No one would be like, yeah, she practiced. Like, she knows music better than you. Doesn't matter. Like, it's the same with goal achieving. Like, if you don't have the skill, you need to go get that skill. And I wrote this earlier, and this is kind of like a fictitious example. But it's like, if I wanted to just absolutely intimidate a new human being who's coming to me, who says, like, I want to work with you and lose 50 pounds. And here's what I'll say. I'll be like, okay, here's the fastest way to get this done. I'll give you a program where you work out 6 days weekly, roughly 1 to 2 hours per day. I'll give you a wearable where I can track your heart rate and intensity to tell you when you're being a baby during your workouts and when you're actually trying. We'll be doing weights and cardio almost every single day. And if you don't like those things, I don't really care, because it doesn't matter. You have to do them anyway. Next, we're going to change your diet completely. I will come to your house, clean out your pantry, and stock it with everything I know you should eat. I'll give you a long list of what you can and can't eat, and I'll need you to memorize it. And there's no cheating. I need you to sleep more, drink more water, and add more movement to your day. This is in addition to the workouts we're already going to be doing that are new and uncomfortable for you. Lastly, I will need you to track every single calorie that goes into your mouth and report it to me at the end of each day. Does that sound good? Sound like a fun program? Well, the reality is that's what it takes. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's where perfection is. But what I just rattled off, if you're doing none of those things, is a dozen or more new habits you don't have. So if you're not good at creating new habits, you don't stand a chance at achieving any of that, at losing the weight. And even if you do it, you're not going to keep it off, because it's all of those habits are going to unravel. So yeah, could I force you through being like a cheerleader and just kind of like an asshole, like a combination of those two, of like, yeah, you're doing great. And then when you're not doing great, I'm like, what the hell is your problem? Like, I could be that coach, and just force you to do these things. And then after 12 weeks, when you're burnt out, you're like, none of this is really working for me. Don't even go down that road. You can't do that. I can't do that. I can't add 12 new habits to my life right now and succeed if they're all new habits. What I've had to do over a long, long time period is one tiny habit, one tiny habit, one tiny habit. So that might be the perfection goal of like losing weight and keeping it off, but you can't do it. And that I'm trying to discourage you. If you're listening to this, I'm trying to discourage you from chasing perfection is what I'm trying to discourage you from doing. What I want to encourage you to do is to do something. Do one thing. Pick one of those. Work on it for 6 weeks. Work on it for 12 weeks. Work on it for a year, whatever you have to do. And then slowly go down that path. And that's the reality of achievement, is that it takes way longer than you think. And it's super messy. Like what Trampus was talking about, like, all right, I got this one. Oh, what about this? And then you get a little sidetracked, you get off course, but then you realize that was dumb and you come back. And that's also the reality of achievement and how messy it is. You can write all your goals down every single day. You're like, I'm going to use this notebook every single day. And then you forget to use it for 4 or 5 days. Damn it, I use that again. That's how these things are built. That's how habits are built. That's how you do all this crap, is you fail a bunch, but every time you just keep trying to come back to the path that you want to be on. So there's going to be a lot of failure in the beginning too. And I think if you can't come to terms with doing tiny amount and then also failing a lot, even in doing the tiny amounts, you'll never really be able to achieve anything, because you're just going to be Trampus's example of having a ridiculous amount of calories and being able to watch Netflix until the day you die and not really actually achieving very much in your life. And so I think that's the reality, is that it sucks. You have to go way smaller and it's super messy and there is no clear-cut path and nobody has it figured out. I haven't met a single person, and I have met on the financial side people pretty close to billionaires, and on the fitness side, the most perfect bodies you could ever imagine. And neither one of these people in those two categories have it figured out or even close to having it all figured out. They still like struggle with all the same crap. And so if they don't stand a chance, neither does anyone else. So we all just have to do what little tiny things that we can. That's all I got. All right, well, we can move. Do you guys have anything else to say on that? I told you I could go
Great.
off on this.
Mic drop, dude. That was good.
All right. Let's get into the workout. Trampus.
I have it right here. All right. It is out and back. Name of the
Okay.
workout.
I love this one.
Say zone 2, so 60 to 70% of your heart rate. 40-minute run away from a starting point. At the 40-minute mark, turn around and run back for 20 minutes with goal of returning to start. If you don't make it back, do a 100 penalty burpees.
Like that's Joe right there.
Isn't there a heart rate on the 20 minutes back, or like it can be higher?
Just
right?
try to get it back.
I think you're probably sprinting.
Well, yeah, but it's 40 minutes zone 2 out, 20 minutes whatever the hell you want to do back, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
right.
Correct.
That's right. Yeah, I've never done this one. I'll go ahead and go. I've never done this one. I read it wrong, and I was thinking it was the same out and back 20 minutes. So what I was going to say doesn't work.
You did BCT out and back.
That's what I was like. Didn't we do this in BCT?
Yeah.
It was a more achievable version, I think.
Yeah.
Oh.
This one's harder.
I don't know how you game this really, because you're 60 to 70%, and maybe if you're very, very fit, you can keep it at a certain percent. You know, my heart rate when I start running goes, I can get out of 70% so easily and so fast that I can't really control it. So I'm not going to be able to go slow. I will have to be going slow, but like it's good. For me, it's hard to gauge. It's hard to gauge how far I'm running. There's really no way to game this, in my opinion. You're going to go as far as you can. You have to stay in that range, and then you just got to do all you can to get back. Like there's no, and you've got to be at least going 60%, so you can't be walking. So,
Right. So that's where I would be like, just shuffle your feet to where you're at 60% and stay at that 60%. That's what I would do.
That is the strategy. Yep.
That's how I game this. But that 20 minutes, I mean, use that as like a time trial. Like, or I don't know, that's when I'm like, I'm racing somebody back. Like again, this is mental. I feel like that's why you love all these ones, because you're like, oh, I love this one, because somebody's just gonna get pissed at you. But
I love all of them. I say that every
yeah. But for me, like, I have to like maybe put myself in like a different position for that last 20 minutes of like, I gotta go get my kid because my kid's in trouble or something. I don't know, like stuff like that. Just do the 100 burpees. It's fine.
Well,
Jerred,
you might not have to, right?
you're probably gonna do the 100 burpees.
So I think I'm gonna go and it will be helpful for this, but it's advice for Trampus learning how to run better, and anyone else out there who needs to learn how to run better. And I haven't been running like at all. So when I hurt my back, and I'm completely fine now, by the way. So I am not injured. I am okay. I am good to go. But I stopped running because I felt that every time I ran, it would like make my lower back not feel great. And so I converted everything to either biking or rowing or ski erg. And I've maintained that habit up until recently. And I was like, I'm probably going to really suck at running when I get back at it. Like I might have the lungs for it still, but nothing translates to running for some reason. And so if you're bad at running, which I will be soon when I start running again, use your technology to help you pace. I have done a lot of this over the years, either just with a stopwatch. I would know how fast I need to go every 10 seconds. I've used GPS on my phone to see how many miles per hour I'm running to try and keep a certain miles per hour. So this is where technology is really, really useful. And in this case, if I were to do it, you can do this on most watches, is setting up some sort of heart rate alarm. And so you could just create your own workout. And I mean, I know you could do this in Apple. I know you could do this in Garmin. You can't do anything like that in Whoop, but trying to think of any other wearable. But those two, Garmin and Apple, you could do this. So I would set, if you need help with this, I would set a 40-minute heart rate alarm, like a pacing, but I wouldn't set it for zone 2. I would set it within 5 beats of my lower zone 2. So like lower zone 2, I wouldn't, if I break past 5 beats per minute of, let's say your lower is 130, just to give actual numbers. Say my lower zone 2 is 130. I would set the alarm for any time I go over 135 that the alarm starts going off. And that's going to be, when you use technology, how I'm talking about, it is annoying as hell. It is hard, but the more you do it, the better you actually get at these things, because you learn how your body needs to move, how you need to breathe, all these kind of things. And so that's what I would do. I wouldn't set a zone 2 40-minute parameter, because you're going to be top zone 2. This workout is not happening. So anything that above 5 beats per minute on that lower, I would bust. I'd come back. So it would be very, very slow 40 minutes out. And I would just be looking at my watch probably every 10 or 15 seconds for 40 minutes. Again, super annoying, but this is how you get something like this done. And then the second it clicked over, I wouldn't care. You can turn the watch off if you want, because it doesn't matter anymore. You don't have to be in any sort of heart rate zone, and it's just get back. And when I'm going hard, I actually prefer not to know my heart rate. This is me personally. I don't want, just with everything else I know, I'd be a little bit, sometimes I get a little freaked out. I'm like, oh, I'm running in zone 5 right now. This is dangerous. Like and it's not actually dangerous. Like you're not going to fall over and die, especially if you're like a healthy individual. But I don't like to know when I'm going like above zone 4. So that's what I would do. Have a lower, very low heart rate alarm, and just shuffle, do whatever you have to. Like Ashley said, the second it's over, I probably turn my watch off. I wouldn't even look at it, because I'm sprinting back to my house now as fast as I possibly can. I'm going to be in zone 4. I'm going to be in zone 5. I don't know. I don't care. I'm doing whatever I can to get back. And that way you're not trying to game it on the way back either. You're in your meet yourself Saturday. You're not like, okay, I'm going to maintain zone 4. And then the last 100 meters, I will do zone 5. Like, screw that. Do whatever you can to get back. Like, just do whatever the hell you can to get back. And then, this is where you can really push yourself. And if you did leave your heart rate monitor on without looking at it, you might find out, holy crap, I just ran 17 minutes in zone 5. It's like, wow, let's not do that all the time. But congratulations on pushing yourself to an extreme level. You will get fitter for having done that. So that's my tips for Trampus. That's like a new segment. Tips for Trampus, because the alliteration. It's great.
Need a lot of those. No, so that's definitely what I'd do with my Garmin. Is I would set that parameter up, and then like you said, I don't like looking at my heart rate either.
Because not when it's going to be high.
Especially if I'm going all out 20 minutes, like I don't want to see that. So just have your the next watch face down be the distance or something, or just like the overall time.
Yeah, because I found out normally when I look at my Garmin, it always has heart rate like populated.
Yeah.
But I recently, I have like multiple screens that you can flip through. If I'm not doing something where heart rate is important, like it is necessary for the training session, I flip to the screen where it only has timers.
Yeah.
So I don't look at my heart rate, because the more I've gotten into this heart rate training stuff, like heart rate training is absolutely useless unless you're using it. Like there's no reason to be like, look at your heart rate in the middle of a strength training session, be like, oh, I got a 171. That's interesting. Like, what are you doing with the information? Is it, like, who cares? And so that's why I don't look at it at all unless I am doing like intervals and I know like I'm trying to like game, like, okay, you're going, this is too intense for 10 more intervals. Like that's where it's helpful, but it's not helpful most of the time. So I don't even look at it, but I still let it track mainly because the daily over decades challenge. Like I got to know how many calories and all that stuff that we're tracking. So yeah. All right. Well, how's life?
Go ahead,
Trampus.
No, go ahead.
How's your life? I want to hear more about your appendix.
No, the appendix, it's over.
Is it in a jar?
They wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me put it in the jar. We've been over this.
They just threw it out the back.
It may be in a jar. It's not in. I'm assuming no, though. That'd be so creepy. Going to the hospital, there's some room they've got all the appendixes.
We throw nothing away.
All the appendices. No, life's good. That I think that pretty much that entire ordeal's behind me. So you brought it up though.
Yeah. So let's get over to Ashley now. That was
yeah. That's about it. No, other than that, everything's going pretty good. I updated everybody on the 300 challenge earlier. Not making that. I did do the 200 challenge though. Got that done pretty quickly.
Got that t-shirt.
It really kind of stinks because like I said, I'm not like cutting myself because I didn't make it, but I was on par, or I was moving at a rate where I probably would have been done early December, maybe even late November if I really wanted to, and it just there was no way. So it's fine. I'm gonna be okay, but it is just one of those things that
let's see where I'm at. We're on
looks forward to 2023 challenge, whatever that is.
Are you gonna? What do you want to do in 2023? I'm gonna put it that way.
What do I personally want to do? I want to start riding my bike again. So maybe a mileage challenge on a bicycle. But I don't really know past that. I have nothing planned.
I think I have not hit 300.
There's no way. You've definitely hit 300.
I'm not actually looking at my data. I'm looking at what week of the year it is. I don't think I have. No, I probably have.
Yes. I'm like, there's been some weeks where you trained for 7 days.
Yeah, I think I may have passed it actually.
Yes.
I mean, you've done 6 every week, right?
Consistently, yeah. But so there's been weeks where he's done 7 too. Yeah,
multiple weeks of 7. Normally 6. I think only 2 or 3 with 5. But I've done more weeks of 7 than I have of 5.
You're danger close if you're not.
Yeah, if not there already. I'll look after. I was gonna pull it all up, but that'd take more time than we have. About 10 minutes to like look at it all.
Longest update episode.
Yeah.
Mm.
Ashley, how are you doing?
Yeah, what's going on in your life?
Doing good. As I think about this whole blood flow thing, I'm like, I have more blood pumping into my body right now, so maybe I should do a lower leg study.
Oh, I saw this very interesting thing. And again, I get all my education from 60-second clips on Instagram. So I never really look if it's any further than this. I don't know if this is true or not, but
No.
I saw someone post. I follow a lot of other fitness people who are also into science and all this other stuff. That the maximum rate of like metabolic rate for a pregnant woman, it maxes out at like 2.2x like a resting metabolic rate. So like from baseline. And they say the maximum a human is really capable of like the Tour de France or like extreme marathon or whatever is 2.5x. That's like the maximum human potential. And they say that female during pregnancy maxes out at 2.2. So like it's one of the greatest human feats achievable is giving birth to a baby or I don't know where that happens. That's what I didn't get. And
Right.
like, maybe in like the 9th month or, the last week or something like that, when you're two humans are using the same, whatever. Anyway, same resources. So it's crazy stuff. You're killing it.
I'm basically in the Tour de France, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, you sitting there is more demanding than anything I've done all day. That's an accomplishment.
No, it's fun. I guess
No.
it's great.
Yeah, I gotta
you don't
believe
feel like it, but you asked Trampus what his goal is for 2023. My goal is to work out again. That's it. I don't care what it is. I just want to do it. But we are doing well. Scott is officially in the reserves, so we are going to finally make that transition at the end of the month. But he will get to fly fast jets, and he's only flown 737s for 6 weeks, and he's like, I'm ready to fly a T-38. Like, all right. Which is funny because a T-38 in comparison to the other jets that he flew to is also, like a level down. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but he's very excited to be in a squadron again and have that whole camaraderie. So, which is good. San Antonio here is still deciding to be warm. While all these other people are posting about snow that's up north and happening, and I'm kind of jealous. 82 degrees in San Antonio in November is not fun. But what is it in Dallas? You have a hoodie on today, so you're very deceptive, but I feel like it's not that cold.
Well, we have a cold front coming in.
Yeah, we do too.
I think it's so I put my hoodie on in preparation for the
You're
next
just
couple
mentally
of days.
preparing yourself.
It's gonna get below freezing this week at least one day, and that's a big deal. So no, I think I don't know what I think this week is like hot lows in the 30s and highs in the something 60s, 50s. Yeah, 50s, I think 40s and 50s, which is actually a little too cold for Texas, in my opinion. Like,
no,
I prefer to stay away from the freezing temperatures. It's not necessary.
I guess it will affect you because you're going to train at, what do you train now? 5 a.m., right?
Yeah. So it'll be colder. But my garage is insulated now, so it's actually not that bad. It keeps some warmth throughout the day. Greenhouse effect.
I say you start that running training that you're talking about when it's cold. It's the best time.
Yeah. Shirt off and all. Shirt off and shorts.
Oh, Lord.
All you need is a hat.
Zone 2 when it's cold is not a good time.
No, it's not.
No.
Cycling in the cold is the worst time.
Yeah, especially if the wind's blowing, plus the bike.
Wind is the worst. It can make you very angry. As I have discussed over the years, wind can be unforgiving on a bike. I guess updates for me, I don't have a lot of updates. I do think morning training. It was kind of one of my last updates, and that's been going pretty well. Unless a kid wakes me up or whatever. I have realized if I'm up in the middle of the night for like a long time, I will choose sleep over discipline. That's my breaking point. So I'll just be like, and that's happened like twice in the last
I feel like that's
2 weeks. Yeah, no, it's wisdom. Well, I even have the thought because my alarm is still set on my watch. Like I forget to take it off. But
okay.
what happened was like one of my kids woke me up, and then I had trouble falling back asleep, which is actually very odd for me. And then I was like awake for 2 hours, and then I was like, I finally fell back asleep, and it was like just in time for my alarm to go off. And I was like, you could sleep for an hour more, or you could just get up and work out. And I was like, I think I'll sleep for an hour because I didn't sleep enough last night. But other than that, it's been going well. I like training in the morning. Got to get my stuff done. That's the only thing I don't like about it is there's no time for messing around. And that's where block training comes into play. Like there's no, your warm up can't be 2 minutes too long. Like I can't go over on any block because I really only have the 50 to 60 minutes to get the training done because I immediately have to switch modes into getting kids ready for school. And so just talking about our block training, it's really important, especially when you're on a time crunch. And so for any garage gym athletes out there, like I stick to the blocks. Like that's what I do. I always have. But if I'm working on the afternoon, it doesn't really matter. And I go like 10 minutes over, no big deal, but I can't really go 10 minutes over in the morning. So stick to the blocks, everything we have programmed, and you'll be fine. Even if you have to time cap yourself, which I always try to avoid. Just get it done. Try harder. But that's it. Yeah. Morning training is going awesome. Looking forward to some colder weather, maybe some running next year. We've kind of been talking about the challenge coming up. That's, we're thinking of a task-based challenge for 2023. Had some people chime in the group that they would like to do that. So task-based being like finish this many meters, finish this much volume, lifted, all that kind of stuff, as opposed to process-based, which is what we're wrapping up with a 300 right now. And I think everyone likes that more because you could procrastinate a lot more, which is more in line with human nature. And then you can make up for it in large bouts of like weekend. Like instead of golfing for 4 hours, you could row for 4 hours and make up like a month's worth of meters that you missed or whatever. So I think it's going to be way better for the community. I think people will like it.
Well, hopefully they'll take the consistency of the daily over decades and continue on. We'll see.
Well, with all the math I've done, if you were to just apply like the 300 consistency to the numbers I'm thinking for the task-based challenge, you would finish. You could probably finish your 6 or 7 months of consistency, as opposed to having to do something every day for a year. So I think it'll be fun. It'll be a good one. I think we'll keep more people around for longer if we do it this way.
Yeah, and if like I lose another appendix or something, it may not
4 hours of rowing. Yeah, just to make up for it.
What was that, Ashley?
I said, "Oh my gracious!"
So I get a lot of my information off of Instagram as well. I saw this meme.
All of it. That's where we get educated.
This meme the other day, and I thought of you, Ashley. It said,
"Oh no,
the only way a woman can compare."
Like tread lightly.
To the pain of a man with a cold is to give birth. Is to give birth without a whatever it's called.
Without drugs.
Yeah, without drugs. It's the only way.
Man colds are a real thing.
They're a thing.
I heard that like stereotype
a
long time ago, like pre-marriage. Okay. And I decided, I was like, I'm never going to be that person. And I never have been. No. And Emily still pretends like that happens. And it makes me mad because it's the opposite. Because I will get sick. I will feel the worst I've ever felt my entire life. And I will walk to my office and work and hate my life just because I want her to think I'm tough. And then somehow it still slips out that like...
Don't try to figure it out.
He's got the man flu. I'm like, what are you talking about? I haven't said a word. Like, I have not said a word about anything. And so, yeah, I've been trying to fight that stereotype forever, and it doesn't work. All right, let's get out of here. For all of our Garage Gym athletes, thank you so much for participating in the 300 challenge. If you're looking forward to our next challenge, just stick around, and we will make sure that you get informed on the podcast, have ways to sign up for those things when they become available. Also, we have Better Human Friday coming up, so don't forget about that for everybody in the community or anybody who wants to snag some programming. Now, anyone who is new, Better Human Friday is a great chance to get into it, get into our programming, but also you could just go to garagegymathlete.com and sign up for a 14-day free trial, and we'd love to have you there. And if you're listening to the podcast, 5-star review and a positive comment would really help us out. But that's it for today. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you. Athlete Podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.